Hey guys, welcome back to another nutritional biology video with Mr. V. Today we're looking at stage 2 nutrition, we're looking at topic 2, and we're looking at safe food and government regulations. And there's quite a bit in here, so shouldn't be too bad, but it should be a bit of a longer video. Here's our learning intentions and success criteria. And again, these here come straight from SACE. So we need to know that FSANZ, which I'll explain in a minute, and its function. We need to understand mandatory labelling requirements and interpret food compositions based on food labelling information, which is just there for you. I'll move this out of the way. All right, let's get into it. So safe food and government regulation. So both Australia and New Zealand are regulated by the same company and regulated by the same government body. That is called the Food Safety Australia and New Zealand, FSANZ. They are charged with essentially, sorry, you don't really need all of that information there, and you don't really need all the information here. I'll sort of tell you when and what slides to get. Actually, I'll just jump straight to it. This one here is the main one, and what I'll do is I'll pause myself here and then I'll move myself up in a minute. But food safety, food standards Australia and New Zealand, FSANZ, are charged with setting regulations and rules that any food manufacturing company has to abide by, whether that's drinks, whether that's bottled water, whether that's McDonald's, whether that's Arnott's, whatever it may be. They are in charge of setting the standard code. Now, that doesn't mean they make laws and they don't, they're not in charge of the legal issues. They're the ones that do the testing and then give the advice, which then is put into action, right? So, for example, this year, there was a question around in the 2024 exam around food safety, Food Standards Australia and New Zealand, and they would often, lots of students would often say they make laws and legal bits and pieces. It's not actually correct. We need to say that FSANZ are responsible for providing regulations and rules around food manufacturers and what they can and what they can and can't put in their food, and they're in charge of organising recalls for food products. They're in charge for completing hazardous tests on new nutrients or new packaging techniques used in food processing and packaging right there. So there's a bit of a video there which you guys can access via the slides. But here's just a bit of a brief info about them. But another thing that I really want to focus on here for this video is the Food Safety, Food Standards Australia and New Zealand, sorry, I keep saying Safety Standards Australia, are also in charge of food additives. Now, you might think additives are a really, really bad thing, and you know, sometimes we're probably right. There's lots of foods that have things added to them that don't need to be, but this is just an example here, these are just some of you, we are going to focus on, and food additives can be there just to preserve foods, can be bulking them up to make them last longer, all sorts of different things, and there's all those reasons there. We're talking about fortification. So the big one here is mandatory fortification. And what that essentially means is it's foods that have, it's set by the government. So what they do is in the government, they'll identify that their population may be deficient in a certain vitamin or mineral. Here in Australia, here in South Australia and here in Australia generally, iodine is of really big concern and we're missing it from our soil. So things like seaweed typically have lots of iodine in it. Our soil is very depleted of iodine and therefore we often have a deficiency with it, and therefore often you'll see that breads and cereals and flour will have iodine fortified into them. Essentially, iodine is added into those products because they're everyday products, which means they're easily accessible, and iodine is a key mineral that we need in our diet to prevent other food-related, diet-related disorders. Okay, so food standard fortification. So there's even a few. So vitamin D is another one where we have margarines and oil added in. Folic acid is a really, really big one, especially into bread and other everyday items, because bread is related to, folic acid is related to neural tube defects. So a mother that's pregnant, if they're lacking in folic acid, this could prevent the formation of the spinal cord of the baby that's developing, which could result in being a paraplegic. It could result in a number of birth defects, right? Another one is iodized salt. Again, iodized salt in bread is a good way of getting iodine in. Vitamin D is added to margarines and oil. Again, vitamin D is something that we as a population struggle. So Australia only, you can see where these are. Another side of adding stuff in is we add in these other bits and pieces like preservatives, color enhancers and flavor enhancers, right? So I just wanted to contrast both sides. But the main thing I want us to focus on is this content here. We need to know that these minerals and vitamins are mandatorily fortified into what types of foods, and we need to understand why. So we'll talk about the why in class a little bit more because it's a bit more detailed, but we here should be able to go, all right, if I'm in class and I say, what food would I find folic acid mandatorily fortified into? I'd love if we all had 2 or 3 responses preloaded, ready to go. We know foods that these are added into, especially folic acid being added into bread, folic acid being a vitamin B, being a precursor to folate, being vitamin B9, which is really the thing that we want. So folic acid is that's why we add it into bread, because it's a precursor to folate. And those bits and pieces. Hopefully that all made sense. Hopefully you guys are okay. Again, the 2 points I want to strongly get across is Food Standards Australia and New Zealand are responsible for setting regulations around the ingredients added to foods, the way that food's packaged, any hazards that come about. They're the ones that do the testing to identify those hazards. They're also in charge of organising recalls and alerting manufacturers that they need to recall food products, all those bits and pieces. And then on top of that, I also wanted to talk about how they mandate or how they regulate that foods need to be mandatorily fortified with certain vitamins and minerals, because the general population is lacking in this vitamin or mineral due to the area that they are living in. Okay. Thanks, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed another nutritional biology video with Mr. V, and I'll see you in the next nutrition video. Take care, guys. Bye.